The Joy of Football podcast. With me, Neil Barnett.
And with me, Martin Tyler.
Looks like Xavi! Rooney! Aguero!
The Joy of Football. Hello, the Joy of Football podcast with Martin Tyler, the greatest commentator in the world, and me, Neil Barnett, coming to you today with financial advice from St James's Place, which sponsors the Joy of Football. More on them later. Martin, straight away into we need to talk about.
We need to talk. That's the question.
Yeah.
You've always found something for us to talk about.
Last week we looked at France and what they're going to do in the World Cup with their centre-forward position. This week we're going to look at Brazil because so many of their centre-forwards are in the Premier League. And running through their team this season, where they played 6 internationals. Now, at the weekend, I saw João Pedro win 2 penalties at Wolverhampton Wanderers.
He's the player who describes himself as not a centre-forward.
Yeah, well, when he joined, he described himself as a centre-forward because I think he fancied that role in the Brazil team. Igor Thiago at Brentford scored another penalty and is very close to Erling Haaland as the top scorer in the Premier League this season. So let's run through the Brazil games this season. They started off on September the 5th with a World Cup qualifier, their last home World Cup qualifier against Chile, which they won 3-0. They had a shocking World Cup qualifying programme. But of course, by this stage now, Carlo Ancelotti had taken over. They played 4-3-3. João Pedro played up front and was substituted by Caio Jorge of Cruzeiro with 20 minutes remaining. The scorers weren't centre-forwards. They were Esteval, Lucas Paqueta and Bruno Guimaraes, all Premier League players.
All midfield players, really.
Yeah. That was followed the following week by their last World Cup qualifier, a 1-0 defeat away in Bolivia, which is one of the hardest countries to visit because it's so high.
The altitude, yeah.
Again, they played 4-3-3. This time, Richarlison was centre-forward and substituted by João Pedro on the hour. No goals. Into the October international break, the World Cup qualifiers had finished now, so they had a friendly in Seoul against South Korea on October the 10th. This time they played 4-2-3-1 and Mateus Cunha was centre-forward, substituted with 10 minutes remaining by Igor Jesus of Nottingham Forest. Manchester United and Nottingham Forest, the centre-forwards. 5 goals, scorers, Esteval 2, Rodrigo of Real Madrid 2, Vinicius, who was on the left wing, Vinicius Junior of Real Madrid 1. On to the second friendly in Asia. The following week, away to Japan, they lost 2-3 in Tokyo, 4-3-3 again. Vinicius Junior played centre-forward, substituted by Cunha just before the hour. 2 goals scored by right-back Paulo Henrique of Vasco da Gama and Gabriel Martinelli. Of Arsenal. Yeah. So on to the final international break. November the 15th, they won a friendly against Senegal at Arsenal, 2-0, and they played 2 up. They played 2 up in each of their last 2 internationals, 4-2-2-2. Cunha was one of the centre-forwards, subbed by João Pedro on 65 minutes, and Vinicius Junior was the other, subbed by a defender, Caio Henrique, in stoppage time. 2 goals scored, Esteval and Casemiro, no forwards again. And their final friendly was 1-1 against Tunisia in France. Same formation, same 2 strikers, Cunha and Vinicius Junior. Cunha subbed by Victor Roque of Palmeiras at half-time. Vinicius Junior played the whole game. 1-1, Esteval scored with a penalty. What's going on with Brazil?
Well, I think it's part of the modern-day football we've talked about quite a lot on the podcast now, that the big centre-forwards that you perhaps associate with football generally, not necessarily Brazil, but the game is played in a different way now, and if the goals are being scored, it doesn't matter really where they come from, as long as you're winning games. And there are interesting things in there. João Pedro hasn't scored for Brazil. I think 2 starts plus 4 subs. He hasn't scored. Richarlison's been in and out over a period of time and has played in tournaments. But he's injured at the moment.
And has spent a lot of time injured.
Yeah,
in the last few years.
And Igor Jesus, I saw him play in the Club World Cup for Botafogo. Yeah, and also Victor Roque you mentioned as well. He played for Palmeiras in that tournament as well. So I had a bit of a look at him. He's a smaller, chunkier sort of centre forward, but he is a centre forward, I would say, from what I saw. The one you mentioned, Igor Thiago, is interesting because, of course, he's never played for Brazil. And he does have a dual qualification, surprisingly, with Bulgaria, because he played for Ludogorets in Bulgaria and citizenship by doing that. And he's hedged his bets a little bit as to whether, I think in his heart he'd want to play for Brazil, but he's now probably looking at a middle stage of his career where if he's going to play international football, it's got to happen sooner rather than later. Now, whether Carlo Ancelotti will reach out to him, it'll be fascinating to find out. We're just a few weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks away from the squads for March being announced as well. So it's going to be a big time. We're getting very close. So they've got to make some big decisions. But couldn't they win the World Cup without a big type of striker?
Without a goal-scoring striker, full stop.
Yeah.
They haven't got one goal from up front
this season. Gabriel Jesus, we should probably mention, because he's back fit again, and an important part of Arsenal going for all these trophies as a backup player.
And he was their centre-forward in Russia in 2018.
Again, but he's not what you call a big man up front. I mean, he probably wants to play like off the side of a centre forward. I'm not saying as a winger, although he had played for Manchester City as a right winger a fair bit. But he's a forward. I think it's a big difference where we talk about the strikers are the ones that that will be contributing the goals. I mean, Cunha, I think, is such a versatile player that he could be the one, really.
Yeah, I mean, he played up front against Tottenham in Manchester United, win over them at the weekend with Bruno Fernandes, with Mbuemo on the left wing. So in a 4-4-2, but a very fluid.
Cunha's got to prove that he's a great goal scorer rather than a scorer of great goals, because most of the goals people can remember, picture book goals. Got wonderful technique, an eye for the opening, takes his shots early. I think he's a really wonderful player to watch. So he could be the one, again, coming relatively late, not somebody who's been in the system right from the early age groups, and hopefully, from world football's point of view, I hate that expression. The World Cup needs a strong Brazil. It's a bit like the Premier League needs a strong XYZ. Put your own name to it. You get what you deserve in football. I've always believed that. And if they can't find anybody and don't score any goals, then they won't fulfil their ambition. And of course, the ambition, anything short of winning the World Cup, leaves a whole nation, a vast nation, in mourning.
Yeah, and the fact is, they've had this problem for a long time now, because Richarlison, he got a couple of goals in Qatar.
He's played wide when he first came to the Premier League.
Watford, Everton, yeah.
So, but I think
he only went centre forward at Everton because Calvert-Lewin was always injured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he's not now, and beware those who play Leeds United with Calvert-Lewin in this form.
Yeah. And
he might be going to the World Cup. Now, he's the sort of player we're talking about, really, isn't it?
Well,
Brazil don't really have anybody who's such a presence, a towering person in terms of natural physique and ability in the air. And I mean,
if I think of the sexiest Brazil team, then the centre forward was small, was Tostão, playing next to Pelé in 1970. And Brazil used to play very direct. People forget that, because Tostão was such a sensational technician that wherever the ball came to him, as long as it was within the range of his body, he could get it down in one touch and give it to Pelé. And the Brazil...
Or Jairzinho,
who scored in every game.
Yeah.
And the Brazilian back line was so technically proficient that they could drill a ball 40, 50 yards into Tostão, no problem at all. So,
but you've had Romario since then of a similar build to Tostão, really, isn't he? Bebeto is another goal scorer for past World Cups. And Well, maybe that's just the way it is. I can remember.
But they got goals. I mean, Mario got goals. Ronald, followed by
like
Ronaldo, got
You're
goals.
not expected to get goals now. You're expected to be in a winning team. And this time, the centre forwards of bygone times, if they didn't score, they didn't sleep. And the game has changed so much. And even my non-league career, I was at number 9, and I was desperate to score. In fact, I was talking to one of the kids at the academy, and one of the things I remember about it's a long time ago, obviously, is if you scored early, you tended to switch off a little bit, thinking I've done my bit already, and had to sort of talk my way out of that. And we've got a promising centre forward in the academy, a proper number 9, and he scored early in the game. And I spoke to him at half time. I said, "Look, don't fall into this trap. You're going to go and score again," which he did, to be fair. And so it isn't now about Liam Delap. What's he got for Chelsea? 3 goals, I think, in his career. 2 this season.
3 in 27, 28
Yeah,
games. Don't make me depressed, Martin.
No, but I'm just trying to say that it's anybody saying they should get rid of him. Maybe you are, but I don't think in the media they are, and I don't think Liam Rossini is saying anything like that.
I'm not saying it.
No, but it isn't, has to be.
Yet.
And João Pedro's got double figures for Chelsea, but maybe a number of those have come when he's not been the number 9.
Yeah, but I look at the top scorers in the Premier League, just the league, and of course the first 2 are miles ahead of everyone else are Erling Haaland and
Igor
Thiago, who are 2 out-and-out centre forwards. I'm not really interested, as far as this debate is concerned, in size. I'm interested in goals, and I don't. I mean,
well, you're spoiled with Harry Kane. I mean, Harry Kane is a modern-day footballer with all the old stuff as well.
Yeah.
Unbelievable hunger, desire, and he's pretty much, although we know he drops into midfield and he gives so much else and makes assists as well, but he has that mentality. He counts his goals. I always say to people, particularly young forwards, and if I meet them at work, and how many goals you scored, I mean, probably I know, but if they don't know, I'm a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
Because that's where you show what you're made of if you're a goal scorer. But being a goal scorer doesn't mean you have to wear the number 9 shirt.
It's only...
Or playing the number 9 position.
It's only under 2 years ago that in the 2024 Champions League final, which I believe you attended and commentated on.
I was a studio guest, actually.
Were you?
Wembley, yeah. I was. For Stan Sports in Australia. Very grateful for the gig and enjoyed it very much.
Real Madrid played 2 up with a midfield diamond, and the 2 attacked from wide, so that the point of the midfield diamond could come through between them. And the 2 were Brazilians. They were Rodrigo and Vinicius. And the guy coming through was Jude Bellingham. Well, Brazil, when you look at their goal scorers this season, have got people who can play the Jude Bellingham role in that shape. Esteval, Lucas Paqueta and Bruno Guimaraes, who've scored goals for them all this season,
look at the results, basically. That's what you have to do.
But Carlo Ancelotti, who was the manager of Real Madrid on that occasion when they won the Champions League with those 2 up front, doesn't seem a fan of Rodrigo when it comes to Brazil.
No, but he is a fan of Vinicius. And Vinicius, it's interesting that he and Mbappe are sort of fighting each other for the centre-forward left position. I don't know. It'd be fascinating to know what their debate about it is for their personal preferences. But, if Mbappe can play through the middle for France, which he might do, and then Vinicius can play through the middle for Brazil. We're not saying, oh gosh, the World Cup's weakened because teams have gone for a different type of main striker, They're thrilling players, absolutely thrilling players.
Who would you have?
Of the 2?
No, for Brazil.
I'd like to see Igor Thiago get a chance. 1, because it's a good human story. 2, because he's helping, done a wonderful job for a club that he began with. If injury is tragedy in football, he had a big tragedy when it started, when he couldn't play in his first season. He's come in strong, and he hasn't had a chance. I love the backstories. What a great backstory it would be. He's not going to go to the World Cup if he signs with Bulgaria, is he? So I hope that, but that's down to Carlo. He must be watching him and watch the squad announcement with great interest. If he's not in this one, coming up, then he won't be going to the World Cup.
Fascinating. Right, 3 of the best next. Letter from the Gantry following, and Voice of Passion to finish. This is The Joy of Football. If you're enjoying it, subscribe. Let's move on to 3 of the best.
And he makes them pay.
3 of the best. He's made them pay, and that completes a wonderful hat-trick.
3 of the best. Young player, old player, and a unique week. We've both only got one player for each. Your young player.
Yeah, well, he's just been going on about Brentford and Igor Thiago, but alongside him, Dango Ouattara has been pulling up trees pretty much since he joined Brentford from Bournemouth, where he made, I think, 2.5 years at Bournemouth. Coming from French football, he's from Burkina Faso, played in the AFCON, I believe, for them, but has come back into the English game and fine fettle, and the ability to score goals, different kinds of goals. He's quick, he can shoot, and what Brentford are doing deserves probably greater analysis than we've done so far, because it's the kind of club where they can go up and down, and at the moment they're on a real up. And great credit to Keith Andrews, who for me would be a candidate for manager of the season. First season as a manager, taking on, filling the boots of someone who'd done so well for so many years in Thomas Frank. So, but Dango started well. I think he getting off to a good start when you're a forward is very important at a new club. And recently he's been winning matches with the goals that he's scored. And I like his pace, I like his bravery, and I mean bravery, not just physically bravery, but he will shoot. And the old expression, don't be afraid to miss, which I think a lot of forwards worry about even now. My answer is, if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle.
And talking as we were of João Pedro, I have never known a forward with such a high ratio of goals per shots and such a low total of shots compared to everyone else in the team. He hardly ever shoots.
No, but when he does, it counts. And so he's at 23, just...
If he did a bit more, it might count a bit more.
Well, maybe. You never know, do you? But I would imagine that Igor Thiago is probably one of those who've passed to me centre forwards. I want to keep my tally going, but maybe I'm wrong. But definitely 23 is relatively old, but our young player of the year sort of cuts off at 24, doesn't it, really? So yours is much younger, though.
Yeah, I don't understand why Bournemouth let him go. I was surprised when Bournemouth did let him go, and I didn't quite know why he didn't. Maybe I'd seen him have a very good game, I don't recall, but I was really shocked when they let him go.
There was a vacancy, and they paid the money. I mean, you know, with and Burma going to Old Trafford, somebody was needed pronto. Wissa going to Newcastle, and Igor Thiago fortunately was already there. But between them, and Kevin Shadows is also chipped in as well this season, they have got it is playing on the transition. It's exciting to watch.
It is.
Everybody knows what's going to happen. There's no secrets at Brentford, really. I mean, their set pieces are excellent.
And
Coyote can throw it miles.
And the other thing is, it's just a great atmosphere at the stadium.
And it is.
Yeah.
Listen, it is a football fairy story. There's no question about it. And I know there's a reality to it all, but even those hard-nosed businessmen, I think, were originally attracted by the romance of football, and I hope they've still got a bit of it in their soul. We've still got plenty of it, you and me.
I went to Wolves at the weekend. I saw one of the worst team performances imaginable. I felt really, really sorry for Rob Edwards, the head coach, because the team seemed to be set up quite well. And two of the most stupid, imbecilic penalties conceded by two absolutely absurd challenges just completely undermined a team that was bottom of the table. They started off playing 4-2-3-1, a very fluid 4-2-3-1. With on the right wing the 18-year-old Mateus Mané, who is English Portuguese or Portuguese English. I should probably say it the other way
Yeah,
around.
he is qualified for England, plays for England, and I think you checked the lineup more recently than me, but he was the only English player in the team on certain occasions.
Yeah, well, they had an injury just before half time.
Adam Armstrong's there now. He's from Newcastle, isn't he? So yeah.
They had, but plays for Scotland. Has he? Maybe not.
He's a Geordie, that's for sure.
They had an injury to João. He was playing more central midfield, Mané, inside João, and João got injured, and they went 3-5-2, and he was one of the two attacking midfielders, either side of a holding midfielder in the 3-5-2. 18, he hit the post with a magnificent shot from the edge of the penalty area. He created 2 or 3 really good chances. He is a bright spark, and when they go down, he will be absolutely critical next season.
What I would say is that he plays as if nothing else is going on at the football club wrong. He plays like he's just been picked to play in a game of football. And there's no clouds hanging over his football at all. No relegation worries. He just wants to play.
And he's got real quality.
Real talent. Really
quality.
Optimistic talent. And if they need to boost their funds, there'll be no shortage of takers for him.
He came from Portugal, I think, a couple of years ago when he was about 16. Went through non-league and finished up at Rochdale.
Yeah.
And was in their academy. And Wolves took him from their academy and would have paid a small fee for him, but he looks a very good potential top midfielder, and he's strong, and he's talented, and so there's hope. They might do better than Southampton when they went down, although Southampton are alive and in mid-table now, but they might. Your old player.
Well, he didn't play very much, I have to say, because of injuries. He was at Derby for a little while, I think, and got injured there as maybe a scholar or even as a schoolboy. Steve Holland, who, of course, is very much to the forefront now of what's happening at Manchester United, came to very close to where we are doing this podcast from, to be a junior coach at Chelsea, really, to start with, and worked his way
in the under-21s.
Yeah, and for one term, I coached a son of Steve's at the local primary school about 150 yards from here, and that's when I first really met him. And he made a huge impact at Chelsea, as you know better than me, and then went on with Gareth Southgate for England. He's a detailed coach. He's a very understated person. You won't hear Steve Holland talking about Steve Holland in the way that I'm going to talk about him now. And he's also very aware of keeping things in-house. There was a period with England where the team was getting leaked the night before, and it upset everybody involved actually in the inner sanctum, but particularly Steve, who wanted to make sure that everything that he'd done in a week in the preparation was kept as a surprise for the opposition. It's no surprise that, all credit to Michael Carrick, who obviously is going to be, he's in the hot seat, but Steve is right there beside him, I'm sure, on a day-to-day basis, on an hour-to-hour basis during the working week to get ready for the games. He's just the kind of person not looking for anything out of it except the success of the team, and that he will be looking at every ifs, buts and maybes and what ifs that coaches need. The managers don't always have time to do, but coaches do. So I wish you played more, Steve. I bet you do too, but you've been a fantastic coach.
I can give you a story about him playing at Old Trafford in the Youth Cup. Was he a youth player at Derby or at Crewe? I think at Derby. Yeah. I think they were leading. Derby were leading. And he got back. Maybe it was a midfield. I don't know what his position was. But he got back in order to clear a really dangerous cross for a corner. and he celebrated it with the other players, clearing them all. Was absolutely
Well,
full of it.
one of
The corner came in, and they scored the
Oh, no,
equaliser from it. And
Sorry.
he learnt a big lesson that day,
Yes.
and he tells youth team players about it and how you should never ever switch off. And they lost the game, and he told me on television about
I bet
that.
he's never been caught out like that. His players have been warned. He's never not warned a player about that.
I sat in on in his office one afternoon, where the day of a reserve game, under 21s, whatever it was, game, and he had 2 or 3 players in who were playing that evening, and I always remember he had a midfielder in, an attacking midfield, but a young midfielder who probably had only played 1 or 2 games at that level, and he just very gently said to him, during the course of the conversation, I'd really like to see you have at least 3 good shots at goal tonight. That get forward and get involved and see if you can get 3 shots at goal. Now, what you're talking about, and have been right the way through the podcast, about the scoring of goals and the joy of football is in the scoring of goals. And just such a simple message from a coach. I was really impressed. Just a midfielder, I want to see you have 3 shots. He didn't say score 3 goals.
I'd counter that. It's a long story. It's a short story a long time ago, when there was a player called, I know what his name is. His name was Albert Quixall, who played.
I remember Albert Quixall.
Yeah,
Manchester
he played
United.
for Sheffield Wednesday before that. And at Sheffield Wednesday, they had coaching, even back then, late 1950s and 1960s, based on stats. So he was told as a midfield player, he played for England again, he had to have 8 shots. So they kicked off, the ball went back to him, and he smacked it over the bar from 45 yards and went, 1. So it doesn't always work.
That's brilliant. Steve Holland, great coaching career. My old player is not with us anymore, and I was reminded of him while watching Liverpool-Manchester City on television. I think that Szoboszlai,
Dominic
Szoboszlai's goal, free kick goal, was as good a free kick in the Premier League era as I can remember. In fact, probably a Premier League goal. I'm not talking about, obviously there's Roberto Carlos.
You can find different kinds of free kicks, but one hit like that, they're very rarely hit like that.
Yeah.
And Donnarumma gave up on it, which is, I think, the testimony to how good it was.
Well, Donnarumma was just jumping off the grounds as he took it. If they'd been my goalkeeper, I'd have been screaming blue murder at him and giving him an anti-assist. I'm not.
But it rolled into the top.
Technically wrong.
It wasn't curled or bent. No. It was just powered in the
best free kick goal I've ever seen in my life was by Siniša Mihajlović, then of Lazio. He scored more direct free kick goals in Serie A than any other player ever, 28. Many regard him as the best free kick taker ever. He was a bit of a grumpy old git.
Well, he was a very controversial person.
He was. He got sent off in Rome in a game against Chelsea in 1999 for spitting in the face of Adrian Mutu. The following season, he had to apologise to Patrick Vieira for making a racist slur at him on the pitch when they were playing Arsenal. And basically, this kind of conduct followed him all the way through his career. He was Serbian. He liked a bit of confrontation. He was slow as a defender. He wasn't the best defender in the world, but he was a typical Serie A grit it out. If you can't get the ball, get the man defender, and a lot of people whose team he was on loved him. At Stamford Bridge in 2004, Lazio won 2-1 in the Champions League, and he took a free kick from about 35 yards, and it zipped and curled into the top corner. 28 goals direct from free kicks in Serie A. Never mind all the others. and international ones, and the Champions League and Coppa Italia ones. It was the most. You knew it was going to happen when he lined it up. You knew it was going to happen because you knew about his history. Left-footed, absolutely whipped it, and he went on to become a manager. Had a long managerial career, and about 3 years ago was diagnosed in his early 50s with aggressive leukemia and died aged 53. Managed Italy for a year. And 2 spells in charge of Bologna, and the last one he saved them from relegation when he went in late. A talent, and in the taking of free kicks, a unique talent, and I think that's the best side of him to remember, probably. Your player?
Yeah, it's Ismaïla Sarr of Crystal Palace and Senegal, of course a winner of AFCON, and I'll start with that because there's a lot said about Sadio Mané, rightly so, said about Sadio Mané in dealing with the issue when the coach tried to take the players, and did take a majority of the players off the pitch, the award of a penalty against Senegal for Morocco, the host nation, and screams of hometown decision. And just before that, they'd had a goal disallowed. Actually, I think the whistle had gone before Sarr put the ball in the net, but he was right to the centre of that. So the build-up of that feeling of injustice. But I don't think he went off down to the dressing room. I've been looking at pictures to see people who were there tell me he stayed, and that he was Mr. Sensible as well as Mané was, and they got the game back going again, and he ended up with that amazing penalty from Brahim Diaz. He ended up going extra time and winning the tournament, which is a great thing to have, a continental title. So, but then he's come back to Crystal Palace, who are in a mess, and the fact that he was away for a period was contributing to that mess, because they couldn't really cover for him. The way they played, and the way they played a huge part in them winning the FA Cup and the Community Shield and getting into Europe and everything. So a big miss, and he's come back. He converted the penalty at Forest to get them a point, when that was a big pressure penalty kick. But more than that, he scored the winner at Brighton, which in any certain circumstance for Crystal Palace is a massive goal. But in this particular circumstance, where we've been saying on the podcast and off the podcast that if any team's going to slip back into it, slip into relegation trouble, it is going to be Crystal Palace, because of the difficulties they've been going through. And he got it was a clever goal, a nice move. Brighton not very good defending, but when he went into the penalty area, he was able to accelerate. He used his speed over a short distance, and maybe a bit lucky with the finish. It went in off the goalkeeper, but as they say, who cares if it goes in? So I think he's had a good 2026 already, and plenty more to come.
How do you explain Watford? Because you can go all the way back to John Barnes, who went on to become Footballer of the Year and PFA player.
Richarlison, João Pedro, we've been talking about already.
Richarlison, who won the Europa League last season. João Pedro won the Club World Cup last season. Yeah. And Ismaïla Sarr, who won the FA Cup last season. All ex-Watford players.
Yeah. Recruitment good. And not enough stability for them to be able to build on having them there. Not all there at the same time, but great talent identification and good profits, of course, for the football club, who are looking for another manager again as we speak. Javi Grassi, you remember I've mentioned this quite a few times, probably too many times, that when I was assistant manager at Woking, we played Watford in the FA Cup. Javi Grassi was their manager, and Javi Grassi, a gracious man, so perfectly named really. He treated us with great respect. In fact, invited us that was in the January, the following July, we were invited to the training ground to put a team up against his first team as a pre-season game when somebody dropped out. He invited us, National League Woking. And we just got into the National League then, from the National League South, when we played them. And so I was hoping he really would do well. He hadn't done very badly, I don't think, but basically it was maybe his decision the second time don't go back, and that hasn't quite worked out. So we'll see what happens at Watford. But yeah, if you're looking for a good young attacking player, go and see what Watford have brought in.
I'm going back to Wolves for my player. It's probably the first time I've seen him in the flesh, Angel Gomes, Manchester United, England, Lille, Marseille, out of favour at Marseille, who he joined last summer. And there's someone said if you fall out of favour with Robert De Zerbi, you're probably not going to get back into it.
No.
And transferred to Wolves. I didn't realise how tiny...
He's on loan, isn't he?
He's on loan,
yeah.
I didn't realise how tiny he is. I didn't realise how talented he is. His passing was of the highest quality. Again, how could Wolves be where they are? Well, they've just signed him. But he played 65, 70 minutes before cramp got the better of him. So he obviously hasn't played recently. Or I take it he hasn't. But his quality, again, in the game was of the highest order. His passing, his vision, his getting around the pitch, a left-footed playmaker. I was really, really impressed. I didn't realise how good he is. And just like Mané, although he's more potential, Gomes is 25 years old, he looks a Premier League player. If Wolves can get hold of him, they need to get hold of him. But when they go down, I would think he'll have better suitors than them. But
it's a nightmare for the commentators. João Gomes, Rodrigo Gomes, and now Angel Gomes.
Oh no, there's a fourth one. There's 4 Gomeses. Yeah, on the team sheet there's 4, and there's 2 Buenos.
Hugo and Santiago Bueno. Yeah.
So I mean, it was. It is. I agree. It's a nightmare. But Angel hasn't fulfilled the promise. Obviously, I didn't realise.
Totti Gomes.
Yeah. That's
but
right.
we only call him Totti. So
well, that's because probably for
maybe because the
safety.
others came in.
Yeah, he's been injured all season.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise Angel Gomes was the youngest Manchester United debutant since Duncan Edwards when he came.
He's also the first player born after January the 1st, 2000 to play in the Premier League.
Was he really?
Yeah. A millennial in terms of football, yeah.
So 25, all is not lost, is all I want to say. I was very, very impressed. So 2 Wolves players in an absolutely appalling team who, to be fair, were undone by 2 ridiculous penalty concessions, both of which were just inexplicable. And had that not happened, would it have been different? Who knows? But 2 players there, not bad. And if they go down and I were from another club, I'd be looking very hard at what I could get them for. That is 3 of the best. Now, letter from the gantry coming up next, but first it gives me a chance just to remind you that now that the Chancellor's budget is done, you might be wondering what it means for you, your family and your future. You won't be alone. There's lots to understand about how what she announced could impact your finances. If you're feeling like you need some help, know that St James's Place has a national community of advisors that offer one-to-one financial advice. The St James's Place Financial Advisor can help with your plan for the future, empowering you to make confident choices around your family finances. So visit sjp.co.uk to find your one-to-one financial advisor. And the St James's Place representatives, all of them represent only St James's Place Wealth Management PLC, which is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. SJP approved 21st of October 2025. There you go, have a look at that. Ladies, gentlemen and others. Letter from the Gantry by Martin Tyler.
Letter from the Gantry.
Thanks, Neil. Last month's 10-1 FA Cup victory over League One Exeter for Manchester City reminded me, and I'm sure many older City fans, of a previously identical scoreline at their old home, Main Road. November the 7th, 1987, Manchester City 10, Huddersfield Town 1. For decades, it was the only game with a team reaching double figures I had commentated on, until England beat San Marino 10-0 in 2021. But that City win is still very much in the record books because 3 different players scored hat-tricks. Manchester-born Paul Stewart, who'd cost £200,000 incidentally from Blackpool, Greater Manchester-born David White, just 8 days past his 20th birthday, and Londoner Tony Adcock, who'd been scoring goals aplenty in the 4th tier for Colchester United. City had taken a chance on him doing the same at a higher level and invested £85,000 in that hope. Huddersfield arrived in Manchester, bottom of the old 2nd Division, under the management of former England, Newcastle and Arsenal striker Malcolm MacDonald, Super Mac, very much a legend of his time as a goalscorer. He'd been in the job for a matter of weeks, but he had steered them to a home win over Millwall, but after 16 games, it was their only victory of the season so far. With their blue and white stripes clashing with City's sky blue, they turned out with a new alternative look, with shirts of black and yellow checks, in a style akin to the checkered flags of the motor racing world. In West Yorkshire, it's now more notoriously known as the bruised banana kit. City had been relegated from the top flight the previous spring, and there was an expectation that they would bounce straight back, now under Mel Machin, who had plenty of coaching experience but was a first-time manager. Machin's team had won 6 but lost 5 of their 16 matches prior to this remarkable afternoon, and were barely in the top half of the 2nd Division table. They actually started the game tamely, and their first meaningful attack took 13 minutes, but it produced the opening goal, oddly as it turned out, the one which didn't feature a subsequent hat-trick hero. The scorer was Neil McNabb, a midfield player from Scotland who played for Spurs as a 16-year-old and had experience in the old 1st Division for Bolton and Brighton as well as City. The main attackers would benefit from a great supply line down the left, 18-year-old left-back Andy Hinchcliffe and Paul Simpson, who was only 21 but had bags of first-team experience, making his City debut at 16. Stewart opened his account after 29 minutes. Adcock made it 3-0 5 minutes later, a milestone moment for him, his first City League goal, which was also the 100th of his football career. White got his name on the scoresheet 3 minutes before the break. I was working for Granada Television, covering the game for highlights to be shown the following afternoon. The producer, Paul Doherty, was one of the great innovators of television's growing coverage of football, and his dad, Peter, had been the star of City's League Championship triumph 50 years earlier, 30 goals in 41 games. For this match, Paul had employed a special guest, Frank Worthington, a cavalier of a player whose flamboyant career had started at his hometown club Huddersfield. At half-time, we recorded an interview on the gantry, which will be shown at half-time in the highlights package the next day. Frank's main quote was unforgettable and very prophetic. If it goes on like this, it could be double figures. Simpson set up Adcock in the 52nd minute and Stewart in the 66th. Adcock then dispossessed Town defender Simon Webster and was the first to complete his hat-trick. 7-0 and still a quarter of the game to go. Stewart was the next to take his personal tally to 3, put on a plate for him by Hinchcliffe. I remember thinking White looked offside as he ran clear for his second to make it 9-0. Referee Robbie Hart waved play on, and then with 2 minutes to go gave a penalty against City for a rather gentle push by right-back John Gidman, once of Aston Villa, Everton, Manchester United and England. It was converted by Andy May, who had started his career with Manchester City. That was another twist to the tale, but not the final one. White completed the treble of the trebles in the dying moments. Frank Worthington had been right. It was double figures. David White would win 1 cap for England, Paul Stewart 3, but with Tottenham, where he also helped them win the FA Cup in 1991, scoring at Wembley in the final against Nottingham Forest. But Tony Adcock would net only twice more for City, leaving the following January for Northampton Town in a swap deal for Trevor Morley. Andy Hinchcliffe also reached England level, 7 caps, but 1 while playing for Everton. His voice now regularly heard as part of the Sky Sports commentary team. Paul Simpson has also stayed in the game. As an England coach, he steered the under-20s to World Cup triumph in South Korea in 2017. No mean achievement. For the record, the unfortunate and scantily protected Huddersfield goalkeeper was Brian Cox. But if you search that name, you'll be directed to a prominent actor or a professor of physics with excellent broadcasting skills, Science's pin-up boy. Huddersfield's Brian had a good career though, with over 200 Football League games for the Terriers and more than 300 in total. Remarkably, the clubs played each other 4 more times that season. Huddersfield won the return league game in Yorkshire 1-0, but it didn't save them from relegation to Division 3. And a third-round FA Cup tie went to 3 games before City won 3-0. In only one of those matches did White, Stewart and Adcock line up together again. It was the first replay. It was at Main Road, and it finished 0-0.
87, City went up in 89 to the then First Division top flight. So
yes, the following season they finished 9th actually in this season that we're talking about, I think, and then the following season they did go back up. And of course, around that time they beat Manchester United 5-1. The Main Road Massacre, as it's known in the northwest of England. And Andy Hinchcliffe, I still speak to and see, and it's amazing. As a player, you know, he didn't want to do interviews after the game.
No.
And here he is now on 3 nights a week on television, but he's very good, and he's a good guy. What he couldn't remember was who got the match ball. No multi-ball in that time. We think it was Tony Adcock because he scored the first hat-trick, and then City gave replicas, as they would have been then, to the other 2 players. You know, but you saw a hat-trick.
Yeah, I saw a hat-trick, and in fact, Cole Palmer had been substituted on the hour. So, and it was dreadful weather, pouring rain, and he came out after the game in his top tracksuit top with the hood up, protecting himself and looking for a ball. And he actually had to walk all the way over in the end to the other side of the pitch from the dugout to where the Chelsea supporters were, which was suitable, to get a ball off a ball boy. To take it back. So the referee didn't present him with one. So.
No, well, you don't know which one it is because the balls go out of play all the time and they come. But you know, it was a Saturday of bad weather, and where I was planning to go, the games kept getting called off. So I went to see AFC Wimbledon, not too far away from where I live, and they played Reading in League One. It was a very good game. It finished 3-2 to the Dons, and I saw a hat-trick. Marcus Brown, it was a real poacher's hat-trick, really. The first one, I think, hit him, a goalkeeper pushed it out against him and it went into the net. The second, the goalkeeper dropped the ball and it was just side-footed to him to side-foot in. But the third goal was beautifully taken, played through. And I thought, I'd heard of Marcus Brown. He was at West Ham as a kid and got close-ish to the first team without making any real sort of breakthrough. And then went off and he went for a spell to Oxford United, had great hopes for him. And he started well, and basically, and I was told actually by Oxford United, and they've got a wonderful football man in there on their staff in Derek Fazackerley, and he told me that he thought they spotted him scoring a hat-trick for West Ham in a youth game, and that's why they'd come on to use Derek's expression, he'd come into their radar. But he went to Oxford, left them, came back again, got injured and never. So he's 28 now, and there's many a story like this in football, where they're at Premier League academies. But at 28, and he had a great day. It was a very good hat-trick. He was very modest about it afterwards. But I'm glad I saw it, because you never know that he might have a chance to go again. But you know, it's a good level, League One, and to get an EFL hat-trick takes a bit of doing.
And AFC Wimbledon went up in the playoffs last season, which is more than MK Dons did, because they went down together the previous season. And AFC Wimbledon just continued to buck the trend and do it on a shoestring, and it's just brilliant.
Yeah, and the ground's a newish ground.
I've not been there. I went there when it was just a greyhound track.
Yeah, the old Wimbledon Stadium. The signs are still to the Wimbledon Stadium, but it is plough lane, and it's very close to where the old ground was, but there'll never be another quite like the old ground, I don't think. Some will say, thank goodness, but I played there a few times. I had a lot of memories, and that was where the crazy gang were really in their element there. You know?
Yeah. But lovely. There haven't been many hat-tricks in the Premier League this season.
No, and I think 5, and all from players with London clubs. Kevin Schade got one, hasn't he? Igor Thiago's got one. Eberechi Eze, and Jean-Philippe Mateta and Cole Palmer. They're all for London clubs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And AFC Wimbledon's a London club. So.
Yeah. South rules. Right. We move on to Voice of Passion.
Voice of Passion.
To be followed by the Voice of Reason. The question is it good for the game? That is my question.
Yeah.
I watched Liverpool versus Manchester City on the telly. What a complete carve up by stupid officialdom, and I'm not talking about the referee on the day, although maybe he should come into the discussion. I'm just talking about the rules of football and how they've been...
Well, when you call them the laws, I'll listen to you.
The laws of football, which have been completely trashed over the last 10 years. It was quite a brilliant moment when Cherki's shot from halfway was going into the empty goal because Alisson had got up in search of an equaliser at a set play. It was brilliant when Holland outpaced Szoboszlai to get to the ball. It was stupid of Szoboszlai to pull him back. When he did, Haaland pulled him back and the ball trickled into the goal with neither of them touching it. It would clearly have been a goal if Haaland hadn't been pulled back. I think it might well have been a goal if Haaland hadn't then pulled Szoboszlai back.
It would certainly have been a goal if there'd been no VAR.
Yeah, the referee didn't spot the pulls, gave the goal. It was a brilliant, brilliant moment of drama in football. And VAR went and totally undermined and destroyed it. And maybe the Liverpool supporters wouldn't agree, but the game was over. The anguish in football in its depths is as much a part of the addiction as the joy in the heights of greatness. And that would have been a moment that Liverpool supporters would have relived and relived. They might not thank you for doing it, but they would have relived and relived for years to come, that moment when that third goal went in. It was a sensational footballing moment, undermined by officialdom that has to follow the laws of the game. So let's get a new law in straight away. If in the opinion of the referee, and I know we haven't got the referees in order to do this, but just stay with me for a moment. If in the opinion of the referee, justice serves the game by making this decision, that referee, he, she, can stick to that decision, whatever the laws again. That's what we need. Now, how can we get referees who are able to work with that kind of pressure? You talk to referees. I've spent a long time of my career talking to referees. They think of the game in terms of, well, I wouldn't like that, or I would like that, how it affects referees. You should have no part of that discussion. It is about the joy of football. It's not about what's easy for you and what's not easy for you. They've got to serve the game. The game is not there to serve them. At the moment, with these stupid handball rules and these stupid offside rules and all the other laws that aren't serving the game, it's becoming in danger of being spoilt too often. Now, FIFA and the World Cup is really undermining this. 3 minutes drinks breaks in the heights of a US summer, I get in each half. But in Canada, come on, it's not that hot in Canada. You don't need it. It's not being done for football purposes. It's being done for television advertising purposes. And it's an absolute scar on the game, on the joy of the game. We want the game.
But let me tell you first and foremost, I'll take your points one at a time, Neil, but that one, the truth is the coaches want that as well. So that's not, of course, there will be
the coaches want the laws to be...
No, the coaches want the breaks.
Because
we're getting them unofficially now. We're getting them
because
they're not drinks breaks, but they are drinks.
Yeah, well, we all agree that we've got to stop that.
Well, I think in extreme heat, we can't stop it.
No, in the extreme heat, we don't want to. We want to promote it.
We've had these drinks breaks and, the time added on and all that stuff. That's happened in recent tournaments as well. I don't think you're going to... Television has not exploited it for advertising, I don't think, as yet. Not in this country. We're seeing a development now with the coverage of the Six Nations rugby tournament, where advertising is actually split screen advertising is happening during the game. Of course, it's a possibility for that to happen in these breaks. But I go back 50 odd years to the NASL, where they were telling players to lie down so that they could have advertising breaks during the game.
North American Soccer League, it's USA.
Yeah,
it's the capitalist money-making obsession of the USA, where business rules sport. Sport is not.
Well, the part of the sport that is also capitalistic are the performers. So if you want to be able to fund the wages for the players that we love watching and idolise and give us all this joy of football, then how are you going to find the money to do that?
This
so
is
you're
what
going to tell the players now, sorry, we're going to have a salary cap. We've had some hints of that, and you can hear what the reactions were straight away. So you're going to now stop being capitalistic and say, right, we're going to do it in a socialistic way. No one can earn more than this, or the club can't spend more than this on this and this.
No, this is a very important point, because this is what comes out of Bayern Munich all the time, is they say, if you want fewer games, if you want not so much pressure, if you want more time away from the game, you've got to take less money.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the game as it is.
Yeah,
we're talking about the game as it is.
Yeah, but I agree with what you're saying, is that because the players are taking so much money out of the game, and not just the players, the agents are taking so much money out of it.
That's part of the system. That's part of the world.
But the system's gone wrong. The system has gone wrong. And one of the things that's gone wrong...
You're so idealistic.
Yeah, of course I'm idealistic.
Well, idealism doesn't happen. And the truth is, Craig Pawson, whatever anybody says, and in fact, all the comments that I've read since this happened have all said this, it was the right action, but for the wrong reason. That it was you got something so right, but in the end, it made it so wrong for football.
Yeah, it did.
I think everybody would agree with that. But what is the referee supposed to do?
No, I'm not. That's why I say I'm not blaming the referee. I'm blaming the whole setup of football now, where the laws aren't serving the game, but they are serving the officials. They are much more specifically defined, so the referee doesn't have to interpret. The referee only has to, if you like, flick a switch and get the answer.
What would have happened today in our discussion, in all the comment of after the event, had the goal been given? What would have happened? It would have been an uproar on the other side of it.
Yeah, I agree, because the media is the same. But there wouldn't have been uproar on here. On here, in the joy of football, there would have been celebration. What a great moment that was. What a moment to cherish that was. Yes, I'm an idealist. What's wrong with being an idealist? There's too many undermining bastards ruining my ideals.
Well, my ideal would be for each referee to referee as he sees fit. Or she, yeah, absolutely, or she. Sees fit for every game, that they're judged by their own skills and their own personality.
I agree.
But you know what will happen? The moment one referee does one thing and a similar, because they're never the same, a similar incident happens in another game and the verdict is different, everybody being up in arms. So whatever you wish for, there's a flaw in it. And this was a big flaw and a big moment. But one thing it didn't do, and let's not forget this, it didn't change the direction of the points.
Yeah, correct.
And had that done so, there would be a lot kicking off. If that had been a potential equaliser ruled out, instead of a 3-1 goal or even the winning goal, but a 3-1 goal ruled out, you're going to forget about it a lot quicker. And do you know what it reminded me? I've been watching the Winter Olympics. And as they went through and the ball's going ahead, it's like they're curling and they're sweeping, and Holland and Szoboszlai with the brooms sweeping the way clear.
But I mean, the whole thing was made
off the ice at the end.
The whole thing was made more emotional and more perfect in that they're former teammates.
Yeah.
I actually saw them play together for Salzburg once.
But Erling tried to say, I believe he said afterwards, I just said to him, just give the goal, and don't do the sending off. And everybody couldn't do that. Sending off has to happen. It's a 1-game ban. There was a lot of hysterical reaction that it was a 3-game ban and there'd be this, that, and the other.
But he should. He'd scored the best free kick I've seen in a Premier League game.
Wonderful.
It brought a sour taste to something that was actually very, very sweet. That's what it did.
It wasn't much of a game, to be fair, a 0-0. And thankfully, because of what happened in the last 15 minutes, the word used all the time since is chaotic, so we might as well use that as well. We're talking here, and people are talking all around the world about it. How bad is it? It isn't. What you've talked to me about, and you haven't mentioned in this Voice of Passion, is we need a whole different mindset from referees. And my argument to them is, where are we going to find these people? Referees are referees, policemen are policemen, soldiers are soldiers, commentators are commentators. People go where they're needed and what they like and what they can do. And to referee at any level is a skill set. And I think it's also character building as well. And these guys will work their way through, and they're in the glare of the most demanding spotlight, and they have to make decisions according to regulation A, B, C, D, and E. If there is something that I totally agree with you about, they should simplify the laws of the game. Yeah. But no one's actually said today, get rid of VAR. Not that I've heard since the Saturday.
No, I don't think anyone.
No, well, when you've got VAR, this is what you get.
Yeah.
And when Marcus Brown scored his hat-trick at Wimbledon, when the ball goes in for the third goal, I know he's got a hat-trick.
Yeah, but
I know it. There's nobody going to say afterwards, take it away.
I don't agree with you. When you've got VAR, it's what you get because they're all officials in the VAR office. That is the problem. I've told you that from the beginning.
Well, I agree.
We should have one referee or ex-referee. We should have one ex-footballer, and we should have someone with a decent IQ to compensate for the other two. And that is how it should be. And then we get something which is.
Does that rule you out or in, Neil?
It puts me in total charge, Martin, as you well know. But I've got to say as well. For anyone who watched Match of the Day, 2 guys who I have the deepest respect for as footballers, Shearer and Danny Murphy, said, bring back the old handball rule. If it's deliberate, it's handball, and if it's not deliberate, it's not handball. What a load of crap. It's too thick, that. I'm sorry, Alan. I'm sorry, Danny. It's stupid. It's thick. Handball should be, if it benefits the defending team, it's a penalty. If it doesn't benefit the defending team, play on.
Who's going to decide whether it benefits or not?
The referee.
Well, there you go.
But the referee.
Whatever it is, it's down to the referee.
It is. And that's why you need the right people. So the penalty they were talking about, I can't remember which game it was, but the ball was going in the net. I don't care whether it's a deliberate handball or not. The ball was going in the net. It's got to be a penalty if it struck his arm. It doesn't have to be a booking or anything like that. It's just a penalty. Carry on. It's not whether it's deliberate or not. It's just nonsense.
You've contradicted yourself.
No, I haven't, because everything I talk about is about justice. It's about for the good of the game, right. And it's about justice. It's not about the laws and being an official stamper of...
No, you want everything to be 100% correct. That's not...
No, I don't.
That's what justice is. You want justice to be...
Justice can't
be
be
right
100%.
every time.
Justice can't be 100%
well, then
correct.
You've had something that's probably justice in terms of the law, with the goal being disallowed, and injustice in terms of the joy of football. So it depends what point you look at it from. I think this will be forgotten pretty quickly because City won the game and stayed in the title race, which was the most important bottom line of all of that. is that they were winning 2-1, and that's the end of it, and they won 2-1. So that's all that matters at the end of it. And this will be, do you remember that game and that Cherky goal that would have been this, that, and the other? And remember Szoboszlai's free kick, not his sending off. That was the outstanding moment of this season. So if City lose the league by 1 goal, I promise we will revisit the subject. But the chance of that is zilch.
I've got to tell everybody who's listened and watched until now that when I got, we're at Martin's obviously today, when I got here this afternoon, Martin was in one of his flipping miserable moods because his under-19s game had been called off.
Oh, no, under-17s tonight.
Under-17s.
When's it going to stop raining? Listen, it's not rained where I live for at least a day. It didn't rain when I was at AFC Wimbledon either, so there's not been that much rain. I'm not a big fan of artificial pitches, but goodness me, without them over the last month, we would have had no football at all at lower levels and academy levels. Yeah, I do like getting out in the training ground.
He's been flipping miserable.
No,
but he's buoyant now. He spent an hour talking about football.
I spent an hour arguing with Neil, which is very good for the soul, I promise you.
So many people. Thank you again to St James's Place for sponsoring us this week. 6th time they've sponsored us. And remember all the details and sjp.co.uk where you can get involved there.
And you're soon off to Reece James's Place.
Yeah, I am. Tomorrow. Chelsea versus Dirty Leeds. Lovely. From Martin and me.
Thank you for watching and listening. See you next time.
We love our football so much, but this weekend I've got to admit, at Wolverhampton it was pouring with rain and Molineux looked tired, and goodness me, walking round to the away end, there were puddles. I mean, so deep. My feet got soaked. When I got home in the evening, my socks were still absolutely drenched, and my seat.
I think it was like that all over the country.
Yeah, but my seat. The roof didn't protect you, and the rain just came absolutely hammering down. And it was the first time I've been to Molineux and not really loved the occasion, all aside from the football, the whole occasion. And it was a hard watch, and nobody could sit down. Just all the seats were too absolutely soaked. Not that you sit down the away end anyway, but it was not as pleasant as it should have been. What was AFC Wimbledon like?
It was very good. I only decided to go about 1 o'clock, so I managed to get a ticket online, and it was in the main stand. It was an area where probably the roof was just about covering the row that I got allocated to, but wonderful view, new stadium, great credit to those who've orchestrated all the things that have happened at AFC Wimbledon. I passed them as a non-league coach on their way up from scratch, really. We played them in the old Ismaïla League and various other non-league divisions, and saw the development, saw the players. Some of those players actually were there. Kevin Cooper, who was a very popular goal scorer for them in the non-league days, he was at the game. So it was good, and the hospitality was excellent. The fans were very nice. 1 or 2 people came up and said they liked the joy of football, which was great, and it was a very good game. And I had a bit of a Woking connection because Jack Marriott, who's a very experienced Football League striker, actually when he was a young player at Ipswich, had I think 3 separate loan spells to Woking, which helped him develop into a Football League goal scorer, an AFL goal scorer of some repute. He scored a very tidy goal, but it wasn't enough for Reading. And Robbie Savage's son Charlie played for Reading as well, it was nice to see. The hair's pretty similar, I have to say.
Yeah. Is the quality?
The quality of the football was good.
No, I'm talking about Charlie Savage.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell he's been playing since he was probably old enough to walk in the back garden with his dad. And of course, his dad moved into a house famously next to Alec Ferguson. So maybe got a few tips across the fence as well. So play with responsibility. That's what I liked about him. Yeah, with responsibility.
And do you have an argument with anyone?
No, not if you would suggest from the Blackburn days of his dad. No, I don't think so. But it was a good day, and I really enjoyed going. And as I say, it was a late choice, and sometimes not easy to do that. And I even found somewhere to park, which isn't quite the easiest bit compared to the old days of Plough Lane, when there was plenty of street parking. But no, it was good. Glad I went. And as I mentioned earlier, Marcus Brown, he was the one who had a great day.